Father. I thought you said the insects would be down there. Frieza scoffed, as he glared at the squad all for 1 cent, as they all emerged on Monstra. Hey, who ya callin' insects? Muscular growled, activating his quirk and getting ready to scrap there and then. Now, son. It would be rude to refuse All for One's request after he helped us so much. King Cold told him. Just put up with them for now. What charming personalities you both have. Dobby scoffed. It's so weird having there be 2 of me. The other Dobby said. I wonder if Kiba can see me already. Toga squealed. Oh, or maybe Yami. I can, Yami responded, his voice coming from the walls. Welcome. Now leave. And that's when Grimm flooded the room. Beowulfs, Ursa, and Griffins. Ah, what a wonderful welcome party. King Cold laughed. It seems Midoriya teaches his children well. Rah! Suddenly King Cold shouted, as he activated his quirk. Transformation. Suddenly he grew to double his already impressive size, becoming taller and bulkier, as well as stronger. Rah! King Cold smacked a Beowulf that had been charging at him aside, so hard that its head flew off. Not bad. Muscular shouted, as he activated his own quirk, and crushed the heads of 2 Beowulfs. Humph. The Dobbies immediately started burning groups of Grimm that got close to them, killing them instantly. It's been too long since I've gotten to have my fun. Chilled laughed, as he charged up his quirk, Psy Blast, allowing him to make beams of explosive psychic energy. Ha! Chilled shot out a blast of energy, hitting a Grimm and exploding, killing it and everything around it. Try not to lose your composure, grandfather, it's most unbecoming, Frieza said, as he raised his finger and activated his quirk. Mind over matter, allowing him to turn his will into psychic power. Phew! He shot a purple beam of psychic energy, out of his finger and right troughed the head of an Ursa. The villains easily disposed of the Grimm, but more and more just flooded the room. Suddenly, the floor around King Cold and Frieza became soft, and they fell through it into another room. Huh? Muscular said as he noticed the 2 vanishing. Then, suddenly arms came out of the side of the room and grabbed onto him. What the hell? The hands dragged him to the wall, and then dragged him through the wall, out of the room. He's trying to separate us. Tomura shouted. Thanks, Captain obviously. Both Dobbies said at the same time. Chilled was blasting more Grimm when suddenly, arms came from the ceiling and dragged him upwards. More arms came, and grabbed onto Tomura, the Davies, Compress, and Twice, trying to drag them in all sorts of different directions. The Dobbies burned them off, Tomura dusted them, Compress turned them into marbles, and Twice cut them with his measuring tape. Just us huh, Tomura said, as he looked at who he had left around him. Pretty much just his guys minus Muscular and Toga, and a bunch of metal coolers. Where the hell did Toga go? Must have snuck off. Compress said as he compressed some Grimm that were coming at him. Impossible to keep track of her. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX try and figure out where she went. Not only did he lose her, but Frost as well. They seem to have just vanished. I can't find them. Can't separate them anymore. Yami frowned. Have no choice. Need to tell others. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX his body covered in wounds, at the hands of 2 androids. Man, this guy sure takes a beating, Gamma 2 remarked, floating up in the air alongside Gamma 1. Are you sure this is a villain and not a human punching bag? Damn, you. Destro sprang back to his feet and charged at them. The 2 Gammas dodged his punch, and then both kicked him in the face, sending him flying back once again, landing on his back. Let's just finish this already, Gamma 1 said, pulling out his blaster, and filling it with energy from his fractal to charge it up. We don't have time to waste. I'm no match for them. At this rate, I'll be killed. Without having done anything, Destro thought, as he deactivated his quirk, and turned back into his normal form. I have no choice. I must kill them, even if it cost me my life. Destro then took out his secret weapon, something Karai had given him before the fight. A syringe filled with mutagen. Both the Gamma's eyes widened, as their scanners immediately picked up the mutagen. Gamma 1 quickly released the shot, but Destro poured all his power into one arm, and used it to shield his body, as he injected himself with the mutagen. Kaboom! The blast hit, covering the entire area in smoke and dust. Did you get him? Gamma 2 asked. We have scanners, why are you, ah shit. Gamma 1 cursed. As his scanners picked up that not only was Redestro alive, his chaos energy was spiking. Rah! A monstrous shout was emitted from the cloud, as tendrils of black energy could be seen rising up. Midoriya! The cloud dispersed, and now they could see what had become of Redestro. What they saw no longer resembles a man, now it was just an amorphous mass of black goo, with a face that vaguely resembled Redestro. Rah! The monster screamed as it sent out dozens of tendrils, right at the blue typhoon. Pew! 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 Both gammas pulled out their blasters and started unloading energy blasts onto the tendrils, quickly destroying them, but that seemed to affect the monster very little, as he just sent out more. Gamma 1, Gamma 2. What just happened? Izuku asked over comms. The target gave himself mutagen and mutated sir. Gamma 1 reported. My scanners indicate that there is no longer a physical body inside that thing. It's just a giant mass of solidified chaos energy. Can you destroy it? Izuku asked. Of course. We just need you to get back a bit. Kinda hard to kill the target when we have to focus on protecting you. Gamma 2 said as they continued blasting apart tendrils. Understood, Izuku said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Around him were Sori, Tokoshi, and Giza. In front of him was Mai, operating the controls for the ship. Mai, get us out of range of that monster, Izuku ordered. Mai nodded. _ dash. BRRRR. 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 Suddenly, the entire ship was covered in flashing red lights as the alarms went off. Intruder alert. Intruder alert. What? Izuku shouted. Sir, the foot ninjas have made it onto the top of the ship. Mai reported. Grim is confronting them, but they're just moving past them. How did they get on the ship? Izuku asked the room. If I had to guess, they likely used the Grim. Giza speculated. The flying ones could be used as makeshift platforms, if they timed it right, which it appears they did. Izuku groaned. Ninjas. It seems they've split up. Their leader is trying to get here, while the others are heading towards the engine room in Med Bay. Mai said. I guess that's what we get for putting signs everywhere. Izuku sighed as he rubbed his head. Sorry, Giza. Go get rid of the ones heading towards the engine room and infirmary. Tokoshi, stay here and protect us, and get the fractal case. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX into a new room. How dare you touch me with such filthy hands? Calm down, Frieza, composure yourself. King Cold ordered. First we have to. Swoop. Suddenly, Lu appeared behind Frieza, touching his tail, before immediately teleporting out, and taking the villain with him. What? Cold gasped. But he had little time to contemplate what happened. Swoop. Cold heard the sound of Lu teleporting behind him, and immediately batted him away with his tail, before he could grab him. Ack! Lu shouted out in pain as his back hit the wall hard. Ha! Kiba came in with a high-speed flying kick aimed right at King Cold's face, only for him to grab her foot in the air, catching her. What a rude child, Cold said. Naughty children must be punished. Then he started crushing her foot, with his immense strength countering her high durability. Ah! Kiba screamed out in pain as she could feel her bones strain against the villain's power. That's when Kaiosei's tendrils came in front behind and wrapped around his throat, while also rushing into his mouth. Ack! Grah! King Cold was surprised for a moment, letting go of Kiba, before regaining his composure, biting down the tendrils in his mouth, and crushing the tendrils around his throat, freeing himself. During this time, Lu had recovered and started charging an attack. Chaos Lance. He threw the energy bolt right at King Cold's face, causing him to fall to the ground. Bullseye fucker! Lu celebrated. Although his celebration was cut short, when King Cold picked himself up a second later, more pissed off than hurt, with only a few burn marks on his face to show he'd even been hit. Well, brat, you've certainly managed to grab my attention. King Cold sneered. Let's hope you don't regret it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. TCH. How unpleasant. Chilled complained as he arrived in a new room. Although I must praise your ability to separate us, it will do you no good, child. Thwip. Suddenly a web shot down from the ceiling and covered his foot. Before Chilled even got the chance to do anything about the web, he heard the sound of something rushing toward him on his left. He quickly unleashed a blast of energy to his left, just in time to block the fire that was rushing towards him. On the other end of that flame were the Cerberus sisters, their arms locked together as they spat out flames from their mouths to try and burn Chilled to a crisp. Chilled and the girls were locked in a power struggle, as physic power fought against flames, and slowly started to win out, as they pushed back more and more. Meanwhile, Shiruka was attempting to sneak up behind Chilled, to attack him, but unfortunately, her footsteps were just a bit too loud. As soon as she got behind Chilled and got ready to strike, Chilled aimed his hand at her. Boom! Ah! Shiruka cried as she was blasted with a strong burst of energy, and sent flying at the wall. Shiruku! Yaba shouted, stopping her fire spitting. Growling. That's it. You're fucking done, shorty. Rah! Suddenly, Yaba charged through the flames her sisters were shooting out and then started running through Chilled's attack as well, enduring the pain as her skin was torn off and her bones broke, while her regeneration fought to keep her alive. Chilled's eyes widened with shock and fear. What in the AGH? Yaba jumped out of Chilled's attack, and leapt right at the villain, using her claws to slash his eyes, before immediately collapsing from her injuries. You little shit. Chilled, unable to see due to his eyes being heavily damaged, but hearing where Yaba fell, he blasted that spot, sending Yaba flying back towards the direction of her sisters, who immediately ran over to check on her. Sis! Inu shouted out in horror, as she looked at her now heavily injured sister. Her skin mostly peeled off, her eyes were burned, and blood was leaking out of many, many different parts of her. Damn it, Yaba, we're not immortal! Ji hissed, as she and Inu crouched down to hug their sister, to maximize the power of their regeneration. I've had enough of you mutts. Chilled shouted out in rage, as he brought his hands out in front of him, and started charging up a ball of psychic energy. He couldn't see where they were exactly, but he knew their general direction, and that was all he needed. He raised his hands up over his head, as the ball got bigger, and bigger, radiating power as it grew. I'm going to turn you all to dust. Die! Die you 50 dash. Whip! Chilling was interrupted, as Shiruku shot a web, right at the energy ball. Kaboom! The ball exploded, hitting Chilled point blank, engulfing him in his own attack. When the flash died down, Chilled was lying on the floor, burnt, bruised, bleeding and barely breathing. And that's what you get. Shiruka said, panting. Suddenly a seer came down, and Yami spoke. Are you okay? We're alive, Shiruka responded tiredly. Barely, G added. Suddenly, Nara zoomed in as XLR8 and grabbed Yaba. Alright, let's get back to Eri and Sheena. Then all of you should take a break. Right. Everyone said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX march through the various different ships. It's not like Izuku just kept everything out in the open either. These ships were all guarded by tons of Grim, and as such it made it quite difficult for Cooler to find anything. Meanwhile, a group of his metal coolers were walking down the walls of Monstra, when suddenly, they encountered Netsu. "Hi, and goodbye," Netsu said, before immediately reducing all of them to liquid metal with a strong blast of flame. "Looks like these children are as powerful as expected," Cooler said with a smirk. "Good. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX him. Probably not. One of the Dobbies said. We're not getting anywhere, Tamura said. I think Toga had the right idea. Wait. I hear footsteps. Compress said. All of them went quiet as they heard footsteps coming down the upper left hall. Immediately, both Dobbies flooded that hall with fire in an attempt to destroy whatever it was that was coming at them. After a few moments, they stopped their assault to see if whatever they were attacking was dead, only to see Ken as Heat Blast standing there unharmed. Heh, not gonna be that easy, Ken gloated. Shing! Everyone jumped away from their spots, barely avoiding the barrage of swords that came down from the opposite hall. I'd suggest surrendering, Sai said as she appeared down the hall. The Davies tried to shoot fire at her, however, their fire was immediately pulled in the opposite direction and absorbed into Ken's body. Shit. Both Davies swore. Well, let's see you absorb this, Mr. Compress said as he threw a bunch of marbles at both Sai and Ken. The marbles expanded, turning into massive boulders, which blocked both entrances. That's not gonna hold them for long, Tamura said. But I think I know what I need to do now.